She never expected her life to change with just one job interview. In the heart of Dubai, where golden skyscrapers touch the clouds and fortunes are made overnight, a young woman named Layla walked barefoot across the sun-heated pavement. Her sandals had broken just an hour ago, and she couldn't afford new ones. But she wasn't thinking about the pain in her feet, only about the job that could change everything. She clutched her worn-out resume, printed at a local internet cafe. With the last of her coins, Layla had nothing left, no family, no home, and barely enough food to get through the day. But she still had her pride, her intelligence, and one shot at an interview with the most powerful man in the Middle East, Zayed al-Masri. Zayed wasn't just any billionaire. He was the kind of man who owned islands for weekend getaways and flew in Michelin-starred chefs for breakfast, ruthless in business, distant in love, and respected, or feared, by nearly everyone. Zayed was known for his sharp instincts. He could smell deception a mile away and never made decisions based on emotions. But when Layla walked into his marble office, looking fragile yet fearless, something shifted in the air. She didn't have the designer clothes or polished charm of other applicants. Her hands were trembling, her dress a size too big, but her eyes, they held a storm. Zayed noticed immediately. He narrowed his gaze as Layla stood in front of him, her voice clear, her words sincere. She didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. She told him honestly that she needed the job, that she had no connections, and that she was willing to work harder than anyone else. Intrigued and slightly amused, Zayed hired her, not as a secretary, not even as an assistant, but as his personal aide. It was a job that demanded complete trust. He told himself it was temporary. She wouldn't last a week. But Layla surprised him. In just days, she learned his schedule better than his longtime staff. She handled angry business partners with calm grace and even managed to rescue a failing merger with a few sharp observations. She never asked for praise, never asked for more money, and when Zayed offered to buy her new clothes, she politely refused. He started watching her more closely. Her habits, her silence, the way she looked out at the sea from his office balcony, like she belonged somewhere far greater than her circumstances. Rumors began to swirl. Who was this girl who had come from nowhere and now stood beside one of the richest men in the Arab world? Zayed's advisors were suspicious. Some of his cousins accused Layla of being a gold digger, but Layla ignored the whispers. She worked late, never flirted, never crossed a line. One night, while going through old company archives, at Zayed's request, Layla stumbled upon a name, one she hadn't seen in years, her mother's. It was buried deep in old paperwork related to a luxury hotel deal that never went through. Confused and unsettled, she began to dig further, and what she found left her frozen. Her mother hadn't just worked for Zayed's father. She had once been a business partner. There were old legal papers, shares, left unclaimed, and most shockingly, a letter that suggested a hidden legacy. Layla didn't sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling of her small apartment, trying to piece together a puzzle she didn't even know existed. Her mother had died when she was just a teenager, never speaking about the past. And now it seemed, Layla wasn't just a poor girl with no future. She might be tied by blood and law to the very empire she served. Zayed, meanwhile, was beginning to feel something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Curiosity. He started asking her more personal questions. Where was she from? Who were her parents? Why did she never speak of her family? Layla answered carefully. She didn't lie, but she didn't tell him everything either. She wasn't ready. Not until she knew the full truth. A few days later, Zayed's private investigator, someone he had quietly hired to look into Layla's past, came back with a file. What he saw shocked him to the core. Layla wasn't just some poor girl off the street. She was the daughter of a woman who had once owned nearly 15% of his father's original company, shares that were never transferred, never legally resolved. By right, Layla could be the co-owner of one of the most powerful companies in the buy. Gulf. He stared at the papers for a long time. Betrayal? Coincidence? Destiny? He didn't know what to think. The next morning, he called Layla into his office. She walked in, as calm and professional as ever, completely unaware that Zayed now knew who she really was. He didn't say anything at first. He just watched her as she adjusted the reports on his desk. His mind racing. Should he confront her? Should he fire her before she could make a move? Or should he find out what she really wanted? But before he could speak, Layla looked up at him with quiet determination in her eyes. "There's something I need to tell you," she said softly. And at that exact moment, Zayed's phone rang, with a call that would change everything. Zayed stared at his phone for a second too long, torn between taking the call and hearing whatever it was that Layla had to say. He lifted a hand, signaling her to wait, then answered the call with his usual cold authority, but his eyes stayed fixed on her face the entire time. He couldn't focus on the voice on the other end. It was a lawyer, confirming what his investigator had just found. Layla's mother had held legitimate shares in his late father's company. The papers were clean, dated, and still legally binding. He ended the call, placed his phone face down on the desk, and leaned back in his chair. Layla stood still, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. The air between them thickened with unspoken truths. "You said there's something you want to tell me," Zayed said, his voice unreadable. Layla hesitated, her mouth dry. "I found something while going through the old merger files. There was a name, my mother's, Yasmin Rahal." Zayed didn't flinch, but his heart beat faster. "She died when I was 16. We didn't have much. She never spoke of her past, only told me to stay honest, stay strong. I thought we were poor because of bad luck. But I think now, she was hiding something, maybe to protect me." Her voice cracked slightly, then steadied. "I don't know everything, but I think my mother had ties to your father's company, maybe even a claim." Zayed watched her closely. She wasn't bluffing. She genuinely didn't know how deep the connection went. That surprised him more than anything. "She did," he finally said. Layla's eyes widened. "I had someone look into your background for security reasons," he added quickly, though guilt pricked at him. "It's true. Your mother held shares. She helped launch the foundation of what Al-Masri Enterprises is today. But after your mother disappeared from public life, those shares were never claimed, never reassigned." "So what does that mean?" Layla asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It means," Zayed said slowly, "you are the hidden heiress to my father's empire." The room went silent. It was too much. Layla sat down without asking, stunned. She wasn't angry. She was overwhelmed. She had come for a job, not a fortune, but now the job had become something much bigger, something dangerous. Zayed stood and poured her a glass of water, placing it gently in front of her. He didn't usually care about comforting others, but this was different. Layla wasn't just another employee. She was tied to his past, his legacy, and possibly his future. But just as quickly, doubts began to rise in his mind. What if she had known all along? What if this was a calculated move? She had access to sensitive information now. His business schedules, his contacts, even confidential deals. What if she used it against him? Layla, on the other hand, was thinking of her mother. Why had she walked away from something so huge? Why had they lived in poverty when this legacy was hidden in plain sight? That night, Zayed didn't sleep. He stared out at the city skyline from his penthouse, wondering what to do next. If Layla went public with her inheritance, the media would erupt. The board would panic. His authority might be questioned. And worse, old family secrets might surface. His father had made enemies. Some of those enemies might have targeted Yasmin. Rahul in the past. Was that why she disappeared? The next day, Zayed called a private meeting with his legal team. Layla wasn't present, but she sensed something had changed. The warmth he had begun to show was gone. He was cold again, distant. She didn't know whether to confront him or stay silent. Meanwhile, word began to leak. A whisper here, a rumor there. Someone inside the company had found out. An anonymous article was published online. Who is the girl beside Zayed al-Masri? It included a blurry photo of her walking beside him in the lobby. The internet lit up with theories. Some said she was his secret girlfriend. Others believed she was a spy. But one blog hinted at the truth. Is she the lost daughter of a former partner? Things spiraled quickly. Zayed received calls from major shareholders. Some were supportive, others furious. His aunt, who had always wanted more control over the company, called him personally. "Get rid of her," she said coldly, "before she takes what's yours." Layla overheard part of that conversation. It hurt more than she expected. She packed a bag that night. She wasn't going to fight for a crown she never wanted. She wasn't going to let the past swallow her present. But just as she reached the building exit, she found Zayed waiting by his car. He looked different, tired, conflicted, but determined. "You're not leaving," he said quietly. "I don't belong here," she replied, "and you don't trust me." "I didn't," he admitted. "But I was wrong." Layla looked at him, unsure if she should believe him. "My father, he destroyed lives to build this empire. I didn't know what he did to your mother. But I'm starting to think she left to escape that life. Not because she was weak, but because she was brave." Zayed stepped closer. "I don't want to repeat his mistakes. And if you're willing, I want to figure this out together." Before Layla could respond, a black SUV screeched to a stop near them. A man in a suit jumped out, looking panicked. "Sir, there's been a breach at headquarters. Someone leaked all the old financial records, including the documents tying Miss Rahul to the original ownership." Zayed froze. "Who leaked it?" "We don't know yet, but it's spreading fast." Layla's heart pounded. It was too late. Her secret was no longer a secret. And whoever leaked those files didn't just want to expose the truth. They wanted to destroy everything. Zayed turned to her, jaw tight. "We need to go, now." But as the doors closed behind them, neither of them noticed the shadowy figure standing across the street, watching and smiling. The real danger had only just begun. The car sped through the streets of Dubai, the city lights flashing past the windows. Inside, Zayed was tense, scanning updates on his phone, while Layla sat beside him in silence, her thoughts racing. Somewhere out there, someone wanted this story to explode. And not for the truth, but for chaos. The financial records were out. The connection to her mother was public. And now both their reputations hung by a thread. As they reached Zayed's private estate, extra security had already been deployed. Cameras were being checked. Staff were on high alert. Layla could feel the shift. This wasn't just a company crisis anymore. This was personal. Zayed took her to his private study and locked the door behind them. "Someone inside did this," he said. "Someone with access They've been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Layla shook her head slowly. Why now? Because you were supposed to stay invisible. They never expected you to walk into my office, claim your name, and force the past into the light. He sat down, rubbing his hands over his face. I should have seen this coming. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Omar, Zayed's most trusted advisor. We found the leak, he said. It came from your aunt's assistant. She's been funneling data to an anonymous account. For months, she wanted to discredit you and Layla, get the board to oust you. Zayed's jaw clenched. And the assistant? Gone. Disappeared an hour ago. But we have enough to tie the leak to your aunt. Layla swallowed hard. Why would she do that? Because she thinks this empire belongs to her. Zayed replied. And now with you in the picture, she sees you as a threat. Layla looked away, feeling the weight of it all. She never asked for any of this. She had just wanted a job, a fresh start. But fate had different plans. The next day, Zayed called a full board meeting. The media frenzy had reached its peak. Every outlet was reporting on the hidden heiress and the sudden scandal rocking Al-Masri Enterprises. Reporters waited outside the gates. Shareholders demanded answers. The room was full of tension. As Zayed walked in, Layla beside him, not hidden, not quiet, but standing tall. He addressed them calmly, clearly. Many of you have heard the rumors. Yes, they're true. Layla Rahal is the daughter of Yasmin Rahal, my late father's business partner. Her family was part of this company's foundation. That legacy was hidden from her and from us for reasons we're only now beginning to understand. Murmurs spread, but he continued. Layla has not asked for money, power, or position. She came here to work. Everything else was revealed by those who tried to destroy her. Before she even had a chance to speak, he paused, letting that sink in. I won't allow that. This company was built by many hands, some of which were never credited. That ends. Today, the board was stunned. But surprisingly, a few older members nodded in quiet agreement. Layla's presence wasn't a weakness. It was a reckoning, a correction. Zayed then handed over legal documents proving Layla's inheritance rights. She didn't take control of the company, nor did she want to. But her name was restored. Her mother's story was made public, and the company's board approved a new initiative in Yasmin Rahal's name, supporting women from underprivileged backgrounds to study business and law. The media turned. The same headlines that once questioned Layla's motives now praised her humility, strength, and courage. From housekeeper to heiress, trended worldwide. But Layla avoided interviews. She let the truth speak for itself. Zayed's aunt resigned quietly, without a fight. The damage had been done, and she knew better than to face the storm head on. As the weeks passed, peace slowly returned. Layla moved into her own apartment, not far from the company headquarters. She didn't want the mansion, the jewels, or the title. She just wanted her life back. But now, with her identity finally clear, she could choose what kind of future she wanted to build. Zayed visited her often. Their relationship had changed, grown. It wasn't just built on power or secrets anymore. There was trust now, something rare and real. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the dunes, they sat on the balcony overlooking the city. You still think I was sent to ruin your life? Layla asked with a teasing smile. Zayed smiled back. No, I think you were sent to save it. She looked out at the view. Funny how everything can change with one truth. He nodded. And sometimes, the people we least expect are the ones who carry the key to everything. Layla didn't reply. She just leaned her head on his shoulder, finally feeling at peace. Because she wasn't just the poor girl hired by a billionaire anymore. She was the girl who found her voice, her family's legacy, and a life she never thought she deserved. And this time, she wasn't letting go. As the night fell over Dubai, a chapter closed quietly, but powerfully, reminding everyone that the truth may take time, but it always finds a way home.